Hello everybody, my name is Heather and today I'm going to give a review on The Two Princesses of Bamarre. This book was my childhood favorite. It is one of the books that got me into reading as a young child. I was, I think, in the 5th or 6th grade when I read it, and so I decided to reread it in February with a lot of other books, and this still held up very, very well. The book is about two princesses in the kingdom of Bamarre. You have Meryl, who is very strong and brave and courageous and wants to go on adventures. And then you have Addie, who is very shy and timid and quiet and would rather stay home and sew and embroider than go on any adventure at all. Then all of a sudden disaster strikes, and Addie, the quiet and shy one and the one that is afraid to leave the castle, has to go on an adventure. And during her adventure she meets dragons and ogres and specters, griffins, and she has to overcome all of these obstacles to meet the need that to meet the requirement of her task at hand, her adventure, to complete her adventure, if you will. All of this happens, and that is just a brief overview of the book. I am going to give a few spoilers here, and then I will talk about my likes and my dislikes. So if you don't want to listen to the spoiler, use a timestamp and skip ahead. If you are okay listening to the spoilers, then just continue listening. Okay, so in this book, you have Meryl, who contracts the sickness that is going through the kingdom, and the sickness is named the Grey Death. The Grey Death is marked by certain things that happen during its sickness. First, you have weakness, and that can last for however, but once you go to sleep, you have so many days of being asleep, and then once you wake up, you have so many days of fever, and then at the end of the fever, you die. So Addie at first decides to let her father handle it and find the cure, because she thought he would be faithful and find the cure. But her father is more of a coward than Addie herself is, and he doesn't. He just doesn't find the cure, and he doesn't even try. So Addie realizes that if anybody's going to save her sister, it's going to have to be her. So she decides to get up and go find that cure. And she leaves immediately. She figures it out that night, and the next morning she leaves. She gets a few items from friends and then leaves. While she's gone, like I said, she meets a specter, and then she meets griffins, and then is captured by a dragon, where she is held at the dragon's lair for most of Meryl's sickness. And here she figures out the cure from the dragon and tries to figure out a way to escape. And she also, while she's trying to figure out how to escape, she's also trying to keep the dragon entertained, so the dragon will keep her alive. Because once the dragon loses interest in her, she'll die. So Addie is doing all of this, and she is overcoming her fear, and she's being brave and figures out how to escape, and escapes and gets Meryl and takes Meryl to where the cure is. But because the dragon is still alive, the dragon intercepts them and tries to keep Addie from getting Meryl to the cure, and eventually they make it there, but not in enough time. And you have where Addie is waking up in a strange room in a bed that is not hers, and she sees Meryl, and she is so excited because she believes they did it. They beat the cure. They found the cure. They beat the sickness. They beat the gray death. But Meryl has to explain to her that she was too far gone in her illness and could not be saved. The only thing that could be done is for her to be turned into a fairy or to die. And so she chose to be turned into a fairy. All of this happens, and the ending to me is very gut-wrenching because you have Addie and Meryl. They love each other and they wanted to do so much together and with each other, and that was taken away. And essentially Addie still lost her sister because her sister is a fairy and she can't see her anymore. She can't be around her anymore. Meryl is immortal and she isn't. Addie is not. So they are still torn apart, but they're both alive. And so I guess they find a little solace in that. So that is the end of the spoilers. Some of the things that I liked about this book is, for one, I love the sisters' relationship. Even though you can tell Meryl gets kind of frustrated with Addie and her cowardice, she still loves her sister and tries to push her sister to be braver and stronger, and she loves her and would do anything for her. And then you see Addie, who, in spite of being afraid, still goes and leaves the castle to do what she needs to do without Meryl, without anybody. She's alone in this, and she's still brave and strong and does very, very well, even though she's afraid. Another thing that I really, really enjoyed is the fact that Addie didn't just overcome her fear. She still did what needed to be done, even though she was still afraid. In fact, at one point, she's still so terrified of spiders that she saw a spider in a looking glass and would thought in her mind that she would rather deal with a dragon than with a spider. And then she laughed at her ridiculousness and realized that it's just absolutely ridiculous to think that way. Dragons are much worse than a spider. So she still has those fears and she's still completely afraid, but she longed to save her sister. And so she did it anyway. And to me, doing stuff, even though you're afraid, is something that is one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy. Another thing that I liked is I really liked the dragon in the story. She is sassy and so much fun to read and listen to. I can just picture in my head her laying down and telling Addie the stories of her previous guests, which are people that she captured and required to entertain her. And to me, I actually kind of liked her a lot. She was very witty and a very good antagonist. I also liked the story, the poems that are in it. I can't think of the name. Drought. The story of Drought that's in this story. I enjoyed learning about that and seeing some aspects of what he went through and seeing the way Addie goes through and seeing the poem and the things that happen in the story come together and the prophecy that's in it, or the prophecies that were told and everything. I know it's confusing from what I'm saying, but really, if you go and you read it, there's a poem, and in the poem, things happen, and there's a prophecy in that, and then there's something else with the gray death, and there's more prophecy there, and these two overlap each other, and you see things, and it's amazing the foresight the author had, and I enjoyed seeing that and connecting the dots. I had forgotten about that previously, and to me it was actually really good. I really liked that. Some things I did not like about this book. I did not like the love interests in this book. I just didn't. You have Addie, who meets the King's Sorcerer at 12, and the King's Sorcerer was 17-ish. In sorcerer years, he was like 200 something. But he said in human years, he would be considered a 17-year-old. Like, that's okay. I don't like the whole aspect of a young girl falling in love with someone who is hundreds and hundreds of years older than her. What? Even if he is the equivalent, even if the 200-something-year-old sorcerer is the equivalent age of a 17-year-old human, it's still not okay. I'm just not okay with that. She should have just left it at he was 17. That is one of the things I don't care for. What does a 200-something-year-old sorcerer have anything to do with a 12-year-old girl at that point? She grows up, but to me, it's just, you're 200-something years old. Go and meet a 100-year-old sorcerer, or just leave the 12-year-old girl alone. And honestly, the sorcerer didn't vie for her attention or even seek after her attention until they were a little older. She was, I think she was 15 or 16 in this book. I can't remember, but she was 15. So that would make the sorcerer 19 or 20. So he would be 20 because they're 5 years apart. And then you have all of that. I really didn't like it. I just didn't like it at all. And there was a similar situation with Meryl, but I'm not going to go into that because that's a big spoiler. And it was another aspect of it was her love interest was several hundred years older than her, and I'm just, like I said, I'm not okay with that aspect. There's no reason to put in a child's book that it is okay for a 15, 16-year-old girl to date someone who is in their 20s, or to date someone who is a lot older than them. It is not okay. They are still teenagers, and they need to live their life. And it just, that part really irked me. And if it was just left out completely and they were just really good friends until later in life, that might have been better. But the fact that she was 15 or 16 during her adventure, and then still was vying for this sorcerer who was hundreds of years older than her, but really 20. I don't know if you can really see my eye roll, but I eye rolled big time. I don't care for that trope. I don't at all. And that is one thing, especially in middle grade, in young adult fiction even, that they just need to leave out. No. Another thing, let's see, another thing I did not like the ending. I didn't. But I can't go into it too much because it's a spoiler. And it just, to me, it hurt. But I understood why the author did the way she did. I just wish it was different. I also didn't like the fact that the love interests were made like they actually started their relationships at the end of the book. I mean, that's not a very big spoiler because you can see that it's going to end up that way anyway, but I didn't like it, especially one of them. It felt very kind of insta love. I think I've heard it called. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite at all. I honestly feel like a lot of aspects in this book, it could have been delved into more. This book, it just felt like that it was just a brief overview. We could have had more of Addie's adventure, more of her time with the dragon, and more of her time with meeting people and learning things of her kingdom. And I know because of the way things are, there was a time limit to certain things, but I still feel like there could have been more, and I honestly wanted more, and I want a sequel to have more of to see them come back together and have an adventure together, and I want to see that. I do. I would give it a solid 4 stars because I like it, but I don't like the ending as much as I want to. I liked it a lot more when I was younger, but now that I'm rereading it, I kind of am not too fond of the ending, but the rest of the book I really enjoyed. Honestly, I really enjoyed it, and it has a lot of nostalgia to me, and it's a solid 4 is really what I would give it. Absolutely. 100%. Would I recommend it? Yes. Go read this book because I think you'll enjoy it. It is a good, quick read. It is fun. It is exciting. It's just good. I liked it. Let me know if you read it and let me know what you think about it. And I hope to see you all next time. So I'll see you later. Bye.